All right, you guys, welcome back to Young Money Investments. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about how to make thousands of dollars shorting supernovas. Now, this is a topic that I think is very crucial and important, especially because we are getting into the fall months, the winter months. We are getting into the time when there's a lot more liquidity in the penny stock market, and so we are bound to see a few more supernovas. The reason that this video is so important right now is because I am currently in ticker symbol FRAN, which again is another supernova that has literally ran from like 470 something all the way up to highs of like 1950. So this is a supernova that has gone pretty crazy as of recent, and I want to talk about how, as a short seller, you can make thousands of dollars on these tickers, and I'm going to talk about my strategies all today on Young Money Investments. All right, you guys, so as we get into this, I want to talk about rule number one, and that is smash that thumbs up button. All right, you guys, I'm just kidding. So this is going to be kind of my rules. I created a 5-part list of some of the big things that I think are super important. Rule number one. So this is going to be my rule number one for shorting supernovas, and that is to look for big movers. Stocks with low flow or high short interest are great places to start because volatility can occur. The only way you are going to make money in penny stocks is really by playing the volatility. These companies are penny stocks for a reason. They're usually garbage companies. You make money because of the volatility in this ticker. All right, you guys, so taking a look here at ticker symbol FRAN, also known as Francesca Holdings Corporation, some of the big reasons that this stock has had this massive parabolic move here is because of two things. First thing we're going to talk about right here is the shares outstanding and shares in float. This is a micro float company, 2.79 million shares in float. That is a very low amount of shares that are out there in the market. So if there's not a lot of shares out there to be had, this is going to cause a lot of buying pressure and selling pressure because there's not enough shares to really go around. Now, we come right down here and we look at short float. 43.62% of the entire amount of shares out there is short sellers trying to short this company. And so what happens is this can cause for a lot of spikes in this, and it is going to cause a lot of volatility. Ultimately, it will cause the supernova to come down, but this right here, the percentage of shares that are short as well as the number of shares outstanding is really the key factors in determining what a company is going to do and how a company can become a supernova. Something opposite of a supernova is going to be something like ticker symbol AAPL or Apple. As you can see, there is literally 4.52 billion shares out there. 1% of those shares are short sellers. So very little people trying to short sell Apple right now. There are billions and billions of shares. So what that does is it really makes the stock very difficult for someone to short. What that does is it makes it so it is very non-susceptible to people influencing the price of Apple. How could 1 or 2 or 3 people influence the share price of Apple when there are 4.52 billion shares available? It's just not going to happen, you guys. All right, you guys, rule numero dos. Don't let your emotions dictate the size of your entry or when/how you add. Don't start with too big of a position and don't add too heavily or too early. One of the things that I've seen, especially trading a lot of these runners, these penny stocks over the past year and a half or so, is that you have this tendency to think that when you're getting into the stock, it's already reached its valuation, you've hit the top, and it's just going to start coming down as soon as you short. Very rarely, very, very rarely, in my personal opinion, have I seen that happen. I've seen, for me, that I usually get in and I have to add a few times before finally hitting that peak before the stock actually starts to come down. And so one of the things that I've done to combat the desire to get in too early or get too heavy at the very beginning and then add too heavy as it goes on is start out with like an obscenely low starter position. For example, right now I'm trading in about a $25,000 account for FRAN. My starter position was 100 shares, and you go, okay, you're in at 100 shares at what price? It was like around $12. So we're talking about a $1,200 position, roughly, maybe a little bit more, $1,200 to $1,300 position that I took in FRAN to get started. Now, with that, it allowed me to continue to add, but I didn't start adding heavy. I didn't start adding at 50 shares an ad. I didn't even start adding at like 25 or 30 shares per ad. I started adding in 5 to 15. Couple times I added in increments of 20 shares, but I was not adding a lot. And to do that, the reason why I believe that was very helpful for me as a short seller is that it kept me from getting that FOMO and overextending myself. And then as it continued to squeeze and push me up, it made it so I didn't feel like I was getting squeezed. I had plenty of room for this stock to run, and in turn, I wasn't worried. Third rule, and I think this is a very important and crucial rule when finding supernovas and stocks to short, and that is not overpaying for locate fees. One of the things that I think a lot of new short sellers do not understand is that in order to be a profitable short seller, finding the stock to short is half the battle. The other half of the battle is understanding how much your locate fees cost, what would it cost you to hold overnight, and how do those fees factor in to your current position that you're in. Are you going to have to swing that position overnight? What is it going to cost you? Currently with Trade Zero, I think my overnight fees are a 4x, or no, they're a 4x. Like, that is a lot of money that I have to pay in order to hold a share overnight or hold a company overnight. And then on top of that, then I'm paying 1x every single day on top of that. So for example, with FRAN, I keep talking about this because this is one of the first supernovas we've seen here in September. The locate fees were fairly inexpensive. So that gave me the ability to be able to hold it for a few nights, hold it multiple days overnight. I'm in this now 1 full day, 2 full days, I guess technically. And I can hold it through the weekend without getting squeezed on my locate fees. And that's something that short sellers just really don't always understand, I think. My rule of thumb always is if I am making the broker a ton of money, then what good is it that I'm getting in this stock? So that's always something that I like to keep in mind. I think you should keep in mind as you are looking for stocks to short. All right, rule number 4, and I've already touched on this a little bit, and that is keeping your ads small. So I wrote on here, I said, don't get too impatient and just randomly add throughout the day, only to get squeezed when real volume comes in. Pick a specific price target and stick to your guns. Most people will get anxious when a stock pushes up against them or stoked when a ticker drops. It's okay to be happy. It's not okay to let emotions dictate your trades. So you guys are probably going, okay, Cameron, what do you mean by that? Like, have your levels, don't let emotions trade. Like, what does all that mean? Well, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4-day chart of ticker symbol FRAN. And as you can see, it's pushed up from down here in low 5s, high 4s, all the way up for it's really over a 300% return if you click on the lows over here. But for all convenience sake, let's just say that it's ran up 300%. One of the things that I've done is I've drawn my levels of support resistance. I'm not buying, especially today. I mean, I am adding right up in here, but I'm adding when I see that some of the previous days highs, or 2 days ago, the highs that we were seeing in this particular ticker. I'm not just adding down here at VWAP. I'm not just, willy-nilly adding. I'm using support, I'm using resistance, I'm using technical indicators, pops here on the RSI in order to dictate when I'm going to add to my short position. And I'm not going to just, like I said, be one of those traders that I'm getting bored, I'm watching the stock all throughout the day, so that means I have to add more to my position. Because really what that does to you guys is that ends up making it so you end up getting a slightly better average, but when the stock does end up pushing, for example, if we zoom in on today, I mean, look at this. If you were to get in right down here and it started squeezing on you 11%, that's going to hurt your account. That's going to scare you. And that's why you need to be very particular and very cautious about the add points and when you're adding to your particular position. All right, you guys, and rule number 5 is going to be look to add or cut your losses at particular intervals and levels of support and resistance. Now, you guys are probably going to go, okay, what does that mean necessarily? What that means is if you're looking here at the charts, again, we're pulling this up on that 5-day, 5-minute chart here. It means that you are adding or cutting depending on the levels of resistance that you've had here. So one of the things for me, it's never too fun to take losses. And believe me, honestly and truly, I've been there. The thing and the key, though, is that you need to be managing your risk. If you if you average up and average in too much, cutting 10% here or 25% there, depending on your levels of support, is not a bad thing to do, because if you're adding or cutting, you know, like let's say for example, gosh, let's say for today, let's just zoom in on the chart today. If you are adding all through here, and it drops to VWAP, you know, let's say you're averaging somewhere right here. That was your average, but you had added all through here. Cutting down here at VWAP for you know, it's only going to be 1.25% of a drop, you know, where you're going to be profitable. You know, that's not a big percent, but what it does is it frees up the amount of shares that you would have. So let's say I had a 500 share position and I dumped, well, let's say I dumped 50 shares, I dumped 10% dropping down here. That frees up more shares so that then I can add again up here and then raise my dollar cost average higher, so that then my average is better. Yes, you're taking losses sometimes, or even if you would have, you know, averaged up to here and then cut some right in this range, it's okay to be cutting the number of shares and taking a small loss, because then what happens is if it does continue to push, let's say you are doing that down here, if it continues to push up, you now have more shares that you can add and there's less stress on your account. You guys, that is really a huge key with this point here, is you want to keep the stress on your account, your overall dollar value of your account that's in one particular stock. You want to manage that, because if you're 40, 50, 60% of your account is in one stock that's very volatile like this, that's a parabolic runner, you're very susceptible to short squeezes that could end up toasting and roasting your freaking account. All right, you guys, so that is really it. That is really going to be my 5 key, very important strategies that I believe you need to understand and do if you are going to trade supernovas, if you are going to trade these low float momentum movers that can run crazy in each direction. And so I think if you can apply these, and if you have any other suggestions, please put those down there. But if you can apply these, it is really going to help you as a day trader, I believe, and especially a short seller. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, you guys. If you want to be a part of the group, you can always click the link down below. If you've not done so already, please hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. I have my private mentorship. I have the course. There's all sorts of good material. There's lots of other free videos if you guys haven't checked out any of my other YouTube videos. You guys, I'm just so pumped that we are right now in the throes of some of the hottest penny stock market time out of the entire year. So things are going to just continue to heat up. I cannot wait to see how everything continues to go. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Talk to you later. Bye.